Hey everybody, it's Wallguy. It's been nearly 3 years since I updated my Twin Snakes run, the last of which was the groundbreaking first sub-hour time achieved in the Big Boss category. Big Boss is basically playing the game from start to finish with perfect stats, no alerts, no continues, no kills, etc, etc, but I didn't need to use a ration in this particular run. In this opening area, you're forced to wait for the elevator to come down, so you could do a lot of different things to kill the time here. I decided to be a snake for a little while and entertain you guys like I tend to do at the beginning of these runs, but more importantly entertain myself, because you can go a little bit crazy waiting 2 minutes at the start of every run, and messing around like this kind of acts as a little bit of a distraction for my mind, and also like an execution warm-up, so I can kind of not feel like I'm doing such a cold start once I get out of this area. Unfortunately, these shenanigans cost me about 2 seconds of RTA, which doesn't matter in the long run because we do these runs based on IGT, but if I want to look at my splits and compare them, you know, I will be faster if I just run straight to the locker and hide the whole time. Speaking of splits, I don't normally run against splits since I'm just at home, not streaming, you know, not paying attention to anything else but the run. But I did them after the fact here, and I tried to adhere to the splits that like Blue Metal and Airlian I think most people use, where they time it based on fade outs after certain events. So these splits should be accurate to what other people use if you want to use them for comparison. Getting back to my last uploaded run, I was very content with that run for the most part and moved on to playing other games. I did stay active in the community. I helped continue to develop this run and grow as more discoveries are made by other people and myself that make this run faster and easier in some ways to get a faster time. But we have some new doozies as well if you want to talk about stuff like prison roll. So it's still an incredibly difficult run, especially at the highest end. There's endless details that you got to pay attention to if you really want to be going for the fastest times, which of course I do when I'm running. So in this run, I use all of the relevant new tech and strats, while adding a couple surprises. There's a bunch of other strats I haven't gotten around to sharing with people yet, as I've been developing it and running it some more. I've improved, replaced, augmented, whatever you want to say, many existing strats to save additional time, and most of that will be in this run. Showing off these new strats are one of several strong motivators for me to revisit this run in the first place. It always also bothered me that my other uploaded console runs had corrupted segments. I think both of them that I did had that. It was very annoying. My old HD PVR2 was not my friend. Thankfully, capture issues are a thing of the past. I picked up a Avermedia Live Gamer Extreme at a bargain price, and it works very well. I'm quite happy with it. Okay, we've reached the first new strat change that I've implemented in this run. There is a really mash intensive, annoying thing that you can do in this vent. Mash all the way really hard, have really clean movement, and you can just run by the guard without stopping, and it saves about 5 seconds over the standard strategy. My strategy mashes all the way to almost the end of this little spot here. That's enough to accomplish what I want to do, and it's going to save us 4 seconds, so only 1 second slower than the crazy YOLO strat. This period of mashing that I did saves or moves me ahead about 4 seconds in the cycle, so I can perform this evasive maneuver here. I come out a little bit low, move to this vertical line here, move up just a little bit, roll, and then just run straight away. You can get right past that guard, get the attention of the other guard as you run by, hit this elevator button twice, and then wait on the left side of the elevator door. The guy on the bottom is just gonna like randomly turn to the right automatically. I don't know why he decides to do that exactly, but he's got to go check out the fact that he saw you run by a little bit earlier and misses what's going on directly in front of him. It's the whole tunnel vision thing again. Optimally, it's very fast. In fact, if you get a fast elevator, you're a second faster than the YOLO strat with normal elevator. So it's pretty nice, much easier to do, less stressful, less need to be super precise. Once you get it down, it's a little tricky, but once you get it down, it's not that bad to do with no trouble. We're coming up on the guards fight now, which is seeing a couple changes, and I'm going to show you some changes that you don't know about that I've added myself. But first, I just wanted to make a quick note about the new opening where you use the quick shot techniques. We were recently reminded about these by Tromboncino, but he didn't invent this, or he's not the first person to have that idea. That was there from the beginning. Anyone who was running MGS2, including myself, back in the day knows about those. They were tested for this fight as well. I'm probably to blame for why they disappeared into the ages for a while, because I went with a different version that's slightly slower but more predictable, and that's just what I went with. But if you actually check back on YouTube, way back, I don't know, over 10 years ago, I think Take Chan has a part of a run where he's using quick shot techniques and everything. But I feel like I've gotten better. The run's advanced quite a bit, and I found ways to feel pretty consistent about using this. So it's good that Tromboncino brought it back up, and we use it now to save about a second, maybe two, depending on how the opening goes. So right away, just pound A, take out the first two guys, and then swing up slightly to hit the guy on the left. If you swing up too fast, he'll run left. You don't want him to do that, because then you lose control of the fight. So it's just a quick, soft, kind of half swing up and hit him on the way up. One of the changes I've made to this fight, you might have noticed a second ago, I didn't completely empty out the magazines for the SOCOM. I preserved one bullet for later in the fight in case I miss some of these M9 shots. Normally you can only miss one shot, which would take you down to 3 M9 shots left to fight Ocelot, which puts a lot of pressure on you to succeed in this early game. It's very easy to miss one of those shots on Ocelot, especially under pressure. But hanging onto this bullet, I would turn and use it right here on the 6th guard if needed. If I had missed some shots, I didn't miss shots, so I just went and picked up the ammo like usual and expelled the extra round while I was running over there. Then I finished these last two guys off right here in the middle of the doorway. Pop, pop. It locks them both up together, and Meryl can kill them with the same volley of bullets. So it's pretty quick. It saves several seconds over the way we've seen people do it recently, where they're hitting them in the arm and waiting for them to come in and off to the left. It's a nice little advancement. Normally a pop, pop, pop is a very good way to get her to shoot them fast. Those final two guards almost always come down that hallway in the same interval that you saw there, very close together. But depending on the RNG of if Meryl drops that early guard really quick or really slow or medium, somewhere in between, whatever, it can somewhat alter the interval between those final two guards. So you may have to do a pop followed by a later pop because the guard's trailing farther behind, but you get the idea. You hit them both at that same threshold and save some time. Oh, another thing I wanted to mention before we fight Ocelot is I recently got a nice Sony CRT like last fall, and that's one of the reasons I got back into running this. It just felt so good to play on. I highly recommend it if you can pick up a TV for free or super cheap. CRTs are a nice way to go for retro gaming. Here we go, Ocelot. He's not very hard. He's the first actual named boss in the game, and he's meant to be easy just like he was in the original game. In this one, the speedrun strat is to just aim at him and shoot at him. He'll always miss his second shot at you directly, so you don't have to dodge it, but the first one you can lean to the side and completely miss or duck. And I didn't miss him at all. That's nice. I had an extra bullet in case I needed it. Could have had another extra bullet, but you don't want to have more than 4 bullets here, because if you have a perfect fight, you want to ditch the final M9 bullet as you run away from these codec calls. A nice little thing that happened here in this run is I got a perfect codec call, landed right on the 15. So that's just one more thing that makes this run really good. Had a great guards fight, got a perfect codec, gonna get some fast elevators, lots of good stuff, lots of good fortune in this run. As I run out of here expelling that final M9 bullet to get that magazine for the weird tank, I get a little dead zone, slows me down there from going in a full sprint, but that's okay. Yeah, the tank's seen some big innovation since I last uploaded a video. But today I'm unveiling a brand new Wallguy tank. It's a lot faster and more reliable than what we've seen before. But first, I killed YOLO lasers. YOLO lasers is done. I'm going to show you a new strategy for the lasers here. I don't know if it's easier or harder. I think the visual's easier, but the execution's still quite involved and precise. I bungle it just a little bit by needing more shots than I need, but you see what I do here. I roll past the first set of lasers with good timing and positioning, shoot those two laser thingies, and the last one I just roll past. If you're fast enough, you can roll past it. Alright, now it's time for the new Wallguy tank. It's about 8 seconds faster than the currently known best strategy, and it's more consistent. You're not going to have nearly as much trouble with rogue tanks due to what you're doing. There are like a million dead versions of this, because I was working on this for months on end, for years I guess. I've been coming back to it when I get ideas. I started working on it back when those science streams were happening in the new strategy development. So I implemented what we learned from JMC and Blues and Aliens and Furry's experimentation, and then added my own ideas and techniques to try to improve upon it as best as possible. Now those first 2 stuns are free. The next couple of magazines are highly accurate. Usually you can get it perfectly, or within 3 or 4 throws you have enough magazines. That'll leave you 2 stuns to finish at the end, and that's still the problem. Now my strategy is safe here. The tank won't go rogue if you do it correctly. So even if you don't land those final 2 stuns perfectly, you don't lose a crap ton of time. It's very common to go an extra 8 seconds or so because you messed up 1 cycle worth, missed 1 throw. That's very common. But fully perfect tank with no magazine toss misses, no misses whatsoever, true perfect tank, happens pretty often.
Is there somebody there?
Much more often than you might expect, and much more often than it did with any of the previous strategies we've had. The reason this strategy is so much faster than what you've seen before is based on what you throw and when you throw it. Like, the reason stun grenades have been so incredibly valuable, I liken it to like Back to the Future 1, where it was really hard to get the fuel for the DeLorean. And then JMC comes along and comes up with this magazine BS, and now it's Back to the Future 2. We can just dump garbage in the tank over and over again. Well, yeah. That's what we got going on now. It's Back to the Future 2 time with the tank. But stuns are still super valuable because they're the only thing you can throw in there that will do the damage while the guard is down inside the tank. And that's why we save time here. It's faster if you throw the right thing at the right time. So stuns when he's inside the hole, magazines when he's going to be outside anyway and you can quickly shoot him. The other strats were slower because they had you waiting for the guy to come out of the tank so you could shoot him, or you had to do extra movement to keep the tank still a little bit longer, stuff like that. So that's why this strategy is so much faster. You're just staying on top of him and attacking him basically as soon as his iframes are over every time. So it's as optimal as can be without finding a way to shorten his iframe intervals. Up ahead is the Ninja. I do the SOCOM Punch Nikita roll strategy, which is a little bit faster and a little bit harder. And I do it partly because it's cool, but also because it uses a little bit less SOCOM, and it's a little more SOCOM strain now that I changed the laser strategy. And also you do less punch Nikitas, and punch Nikitas are just prone to fail sometimes due to like button input drops and other nonsense. So I've gone to this strategy. I really don't find it like too much of a problem versus the SOCOM punch strategy. And I do mess it up a little here. There's like 1 extra cycle or something because I miss a kick or 2. But in general, the strategy is complete. It's still pretty fast. Maybe lose 5 seconds, I don't know. Overall, at this point, the run is going like very, very well. I had the perfect codec. I had a really fast guard encounter. I had a perfect tank. This is really the first like crack in the perfection armor, if you will. The start was blistering fast. So losing about 5 seconds here is a little bit annoying. It's like, I was doing so good, but the run was already on such an incredible pace that it didn't even bother me that much because didn't lose much time here. Just button up, head on to Mantis, and continue doing well is the plan. Getting back to my CRT, it's a joy to play on. The game looks and plays as it was originally intended. It's not quite as sharp as playing on an HD TV, but it's still really, really clean using component connections. Problem is, on standard CRTs, you can only go up to 480i, so I'm not using 480p like you've seen in my past runs. So it's a little bit less sharp. It's still through an HDMI output, but it's 480i. I think my Avermedia takes one of the fields of 480i, so it's essentially 240p at 30 FPS instead of 480i at 60, which is essentially the same thing, just at a different frame rate. I hope you bear with it because I did want to play on the CRT. That was a lot of fun, and the quality is still quite good. It looks very clean, still HDMI source, so that's nice. If only the GCHD allowed you to output both 480p to HDMI and 480i to component at the same time, that would be the perfect solution, but may not be technically possible. I don't know. It certainly can't be done right now. This upcoming fight with Psycho Mantis has seen a lot of changes since my last run upload. Communities come together, made a lot of changes. Plywood changed the starting position of the fight. I changed the composition of what attacks and when to do it, and other various little tweaks. Airlian, I think, came up with the crouching version of my strategy, which makes the shot easier, but maybe a little bit harder to do movement-wise. I don't know, there's a lot of ways to do this. You don't even have to do this strategy. You could be a few seconds slower and do one that's way easier than this, but if you're going for the top times, like I do when I'm running, I do all the hard stuff, you definitely want to do it this crazy way. Gotta whack Meryl here. She's been bad. Alright, so as it's going to the black screen where it says Hideo and you're switching controllers, just before that you have a tiny gap, and that allows you to run over to the right side at the top of the couch, turn around and crouch. You just have barely enough time to do it, and that sets you up for the shot that starts off this fight. You go into first person, fire your M9 right away, you'll hit him with a full damage shot. Now I missed this punch here. The backup is to wait where I was for a second. He'll go top left. I punch him and continue the strategy. Oh, great. Then I don't get full damage, so the backup to that is to shoot him an extra 2 times in the lower damage leg. Now I'm back on pace again. I miss a shot. Finally, we're back on pace. I'm going to get the skipped phase here in a second when Meryl gets up and tries to shoot me. Everything's back on track. That was a bit messy. I think I lost 10 seconds, but boy, that could be a lot worse. And this is the worst thing that happened to me in this whole run, so not too bad. If you're going to have a really bad occurrence, this one isn't too bad to have, in my opinion. I'd much rather have this happen than, you know, miss 3 cycles on the tank, or have the helicopter go an extra 30 seconds, or have Sniper Wolf go on an extended camping safari. There's much worse things that can happen than, you know, messing up a little bit of execution here, as long as you follow the backup well, and then you don't lose too much time. Something I did want to mention about the Mantis fight, I don't know if people really know, they have some intuition maybe, but it's definitive. The way to completely eliminate all extra dialogue from Mantis is to be perfect. So if you're perfect, and you save time from being perfect, you save more time from not having extra dialogue. Execute the intended crazy strategy perfect, he will not have any extra dialogue ever. mess up extra, miss shots, be a little slow, bump him, go into first person an extra couple times. He'll most likely say extra stuff then. So after all that we've just been through, having the worst thing that happens in the run, and that's over. I lost a little bit of time on a ninja. Combine that with the really fast start, and overall we're still on a really good pace. I'd say I was feeling slightly heartbroken that I had wrecked what was pretty much perfection up to that point, but still had the knowledge that I was on a really good pace and I could continue with the run, hopefully with the worst of it behind me. And as I said, the worst is behind me. At this point in the run, we got to go back and get the PSG-1P to fight Sniper Wolf. So we'll talk to these people for a bit and then head back down through this room. And I don't know why people take a wide right angle and then turn back towards the cave. Geometrically, that's not faster. I mean, perhaps it's to set up your overall timing for your dog strategy and getting through this area, but as you see right here, you can just go straight down, roll at the appropriate time, and then come through here and do this every time. It's as fast as any strategy. It's 100% consistent, and you'll never have to worry about the dogs in this section again, so I recommend using it. So now that we got a little bit of time here, I'm going to tell you something a little bit funny. This run was actually completed, I think, December 21 or 2 of last year. My first 56 might have been November or beginning of November. So I probably had record sometime technically a week after Blue set the current posted record. But I was working on it, improving it, having some fun, and then I got this time and I thought, that was a good run. I think I will post this. But then I did a couple more runs after it, and I almost had a 55. I was on 55 pace up to the second part of Metal Gear, and then just completely beefed it. I totally had a bad Metal Gear Part 2, horrible liquid, horrible escape, everything horrible, and it wasn't even a PB anymore. But I was actually, if I finished the run, doing extremely well for the rest of the run. As I've done in the past multiple times, it would have been a high 55, and I've been up there a couple times, and I thought, well, maybe I will hold off on putting up the run and run it some more when I'm ready, but I haven't gotten around to it, and a lot of time is passing. Other people are starting to come back to the game, and I'd like them to be able to use the latest strats. I don't want to keep these hidden. Now we're on Sniper Wolf Part 1. I get really good RNG. She's immediately out in the open. I don't get shot. I'm shooting her. About as close to perfect of a fight as you can get, other than her trying to shoot you right at the beginning and you doing a flick shot and getting her. It's a very fast fight, so I was very happy to get this. It made up a little bit for some of the mistakes that I just got done with. And now on we go to the prison. But yeah, I've probably been on high 55 pace at least 3 times going into the late game. And then just, certain things colluded against me and it didn't happen. It's not something I even expect to happen, so I was kind of surprised I've been on that pace. Kind of brought me to a halt and rethought it. I added a couple little tiny time improvements, little things I don't do. I did to save just like maybe 2 more seconds, just in case I get on 55 pace again. But so many things have to come together there. Of course, like, your execution has to be absolutely amazing, which I can do pretty consistently, but it has to be on point. Then you got to get most of the RNG elements to be no worse than average to you, and most of them be very good RNG, which I kind of did in this run. The worst RNG I had in this game was the helicopter being just average. It wasn't bad, it was just average. But Sniper Wolf, both times, great fights, great RNG. Had a perfect tank, got lottery wool twice. So a lot went well, and it's still a 56-34. So you can imagine 55 pace is pretty tight. I don't expect it to happen, although I might do more runs and shave off an additional 15 seconds or so. I think that's doable with the current strategies, and then, you know, who knows? You never know what kind of RNG you're going to get and what kind of surprise run you could get. But I do feel like I might go back to it at some point, play with it a little bit if I get some time. I have wanted to, so there's a little motivation to do that. Now, something you're going to see here that I've done to this prison roll, I do the hard prison roll, and I'm good at doing the hard prison roll. I get it at a very high percentage, so I don't have any problem doing it in the run. Happy to do it, and did it for a long time, but I felt like streaky, like I'd get it 4 or 5 times in a row, and then I would miss it a few times in a row, and it became quite annoying when you want to get a run going, and that's what happens to you. You get in a little bit of a rut. So even though I was getting the trick maybe 65% of the time, I don't like to reset runs. I don't like failure. I want as much consistency as possible. So I developed some new techniques to try to make it a little more consistent, and I think it's helped some. It does cost you about a second in time, but one of the things I do is practice right here the general movements of the prison roll during that time there that you have to do nothing. And I feel like that helps you go into it a little bit more fresh, not so cold, not just out of nowhere do it with all the pressure on the line. You feel like you can kind of already tell if the movement feels good, if it feels like a successful prison roll. I think that helps. And you also saw in my practice there that I stop at a point, and that gives me just a split second to adjust if I feel like I'm not in the spot I want to be. So I'll run around here, kind of stop at the spot I want, adjust if I need, tap up so I'm already facing up, and then I just got to finish it off in one basic series of movement rather than having to run around the corner, turn up into the right direction, and then turn again, all in one perfect movement. I felt like a little bit of consistency was gained, and I think it's worth it for losing less than a second generally. I recommend at the very least people adopt the practice, doing the practice beforehand when you've got that time to do nothing in the cell. I do definitely feel that helps a lot. You can try the other stuff too, the little pausing and turning that I do, and see if you think it's helpful to you. It's definitely still possible to get a 56 without the scary prison roll. Just use the easy one, but your execution's going to have that much more pressure on it, because getting 56 period is no joke. That's why no one else has done it yet. It takes nearly perfect execution and a lot of favorable RNG on top of that, so everything has to come together. And right here you saw I didn't do my Canyon Dazzle strategy. This run was done, as I said, before that was even invented. So you saw my bulletless double bait, which is still the second fast. It's about 1 second slower than the Canyon Dazzle, all things factored in. But really it looks just as cool, so I'm happy to show it here. I was going to originally reveal it in this run as well, but the community was talking about various Canyon strats back when I came up with Canyon Dazzle, and I was doing some experimentation with center strats, and I think VPP showed a form of the double bait which is very similar, and so I'm like, well, I better just show my strategy to people. So that's not a reveal here, but it's still pretty cool and useful, especially if you're short on bullets. You can't do Canyon Dazzle if you don't have at least one bullet, and preferably you've got at least two, so you have another one left for the tower climb. If I did come back and release a even newer run, I would probably be doing Canyon Dazzle. I was doing it in my runs that were on 55 pace, so I had pretty much incorporated it into things, and I'm quite happy with it. It's pretty swag as well, if you will. Now I'm coming through here to pick up my last PSG-1T ammo, and then I get to just run through because we did the prison trick and there are no cutscenes. That saves over 27 seconds over not doing anything, and quite a bit of time. I think about 18 more seconds over the easy version of this trick. I did time it out and make a video for people to see. Kind of a big deal. Either version is going to help you run quite a bit over not doing either of them, and why wouldn't you do the easy one? But here we are at the halfway point. I've been sub 30 before at loss of control here. That's where how I normally time it myself, although I am using the community type splits here where you wait until you've done the disk swap already. This was a 30:01. It kind of burned my ass a little bit. I was a little bit irked, but I really would have liked to have a pure sub 30 there to show people in disc 1, but it can be done. I've done it at least 5 times probably. Here I take a tower climb that is similar to what you see with blue, although I think I use a little bit less stuns than him and make a couple different choices. But I have added more stuns. I've added the plywood inward toss at the halfway point, all that stuff. So right here at the 4th level, I pull out my stun and take out this first guard, ideally without getting hit. And this climb didn't go great. It went okay, but the ending got messy. And of course I do the inward toss, taking out these guys the way that you do, and then something I do a little different. I pull one here. If you do it right, you can get up here without getting hit and take both of these guys out. I mistimed it, which cost me a little bit of time and 2 hits there, but other than that, the early climb is going well. Do my little juke there to take that guy out without getting hit, as I've discussed in some other video. And then I try to take these guys out both with the thing, which I do. Don't take any hits there. That's nice. That went as planned. And all that is left is this last set of guys, which I don't completely knock out with the stun. And that causes all the problems. They shoot me multiple times on the way out of here, costing me at least a couple seconds. I wasn't happy with that, because otherwise the climb was pretty good. Wasn't going to complain, and then I helped the wall. See, that's just insult to injury. But still, nothing bad enough to really hurt my pace at all. Just, 2 seconds here, 2 seconds there. All right, with the tower climb completed, we are moving on to the rappel, which normally goes like clockwork. It's not that hard if you know what you're doing. But sometimes I feel like the game is picking on me. There's a couple things that can get you. There's an RNG element of a steam going at a very specific timing, which will make you get hit by the steam twice, messing up your descent. And there's another one, which you're going to see here, where the helicopter has aimbot and nails you mid-jump, causing you not to get down below the horizontal girder like you're supposed to. Thankfully, I've been screwed over by this section often enough that I've got a lot of backups, and I execute the backup here and lose maybe a fraction of a second rather than having everything go down the drain. But you see here, nails me right when he's not supposed to, making me not go low enough. But I'm okay. Still get down fast. I get so annoyed when that happens, and it feels like it happens a couple times in a row and then never for the longest time. So of course it's going to happen on a world record run. This goes kind of whatever. I think I missed a shot, but still fast. Did the right menuing. It's easy to forget the chaff right there because you just want to like click and get out of there as soon as you shoot them, and I often forget to pull out the chaff right there, which adds an extra like menu element. Well, we've got a lot of time again before I climb back up to the top and deal with the Hind D. So I thought I'd talk a little bit more about the development of the new tank strategy. I actually tried a whole bunch. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. We're definitely talking many hundreds of hours put into experimenting with the tank, and I feel like, based on that knowledge, it's kind of a failure because it still hasn't been perfected. We still haven't found a way to make it work the same way every time. But yeah, so much was put into it, and I don't know, I feel like maybe I should even put up a video that just highlights a bunch of the best strategies that I didn't use here. because there's a lot of different ways you can do things. You can finish my new strategy with the ending to the previous strategy that you've seen Blue Metal do. That can work, actually, but it's also just as prone to failure as it is when you do it in that other strategy and you bring back the tank going rogue. I've done strategies where you just sit in one place and don't have to move again, and the timings almost work out every time, but then sometimes they just don't want to, and I don't know, I settled on what I did. I even have a strategy where you don't hold the tank in place. You chase it all around, but you can lock it in multiple positions, which allows you to throw in stun grenades each time. And all of these are very fast. I even improved my old Wallguy tank, but it's down to about a minute, I think, which is only 3 seconds slower than the last strat people were using. But whatever, we're on the Hind now, and this goes pretty much clockwork. I mentioned earlier that the RNG was average here, which in this case means that I had like one time where it went down low and was like dilly-dallying and wasting my time for a little while, and then a lot of other instances where it would go down and not come up right away, like kind of medium speed. You want the really fast speed ones where it just keeps jumping back up, back up, back up. But of course that's like the golden goose. That doesn't happen along with everything else going perfect. So whatever, we have really good execution, no problems there. As you see, everything going as planned. And here's the one where he goes around and wastes my time. And then we have a lot of medium length stuff. That one was okay. That one was okay. So see, overall it's coming out kind of average. Certainly a decent chunk of time could be saved if I had perfect RNG here, but I got average time on average RNG, and that's okay for the worst RNG I had all game long. Like, every other opportunity for RNG was excellent, and you just can't ask for that. That doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen almost ever. So to get that all together in one run with also excellent execution, and you see the result, the time I got. But this fight did go quite well, like clockwork, just as you want it to, other than, you know, not getting perfect RNG or something, or really good RNG. Didn't have to use the ration. It did come close, but didn't have to use it, so that's good. I'll have it for later in the game if I need to. You'll notice here at the end, after this cutscene plays out, I pick up the stingers here. Very few people do that now. They usually get the ones in the warehouse north section, which, by the way, is almost a half a second faster. It's really closer than most people might think, and I've generally just gotten this one because it's free and it takes away any chance of potentially having movement issues that get you caught in a warehouse north. I also mentioned earlier, though, that that's one of the things I changed to gain, you know, tiny fractions of time when I started thinking 55 is possible. I did start getting the ones in warehouse north instead to save that fraction of a second. And right here I also still use the tried and true roll technique. It's still basically as fast as the other one, and much less chance of failure. I see people fail the other one so often, you gotta wonder, you know, you either get better at it to the point where you're not messing it up, or just do this, because technically, if you want to like TAS it out, yeah, the other way is maybe 7 to 15 frames faster on average. It's not a significant difference for the way people execute this strategy. So you mess up the other way with the grenades, often enough, and you're already well slower than this strategy, so you got to think about what you're doing there. I also kind of just like using this one because it's unique to this game. I used to use the grenade strat way back when I first started doing this, because it's what I was doing in MGS1 when I was running that game. But you know, I found this one, it's comparable and it's different. I like it. Although, yeah, I do a faster version of the grenade strat than people do nowadays, because again, 55 is possible and I wanted, you know, every tiny of a fraction. I have a version of the grenade strat that saves like maybe 2 seconds at best over what other people generally do with their version of it. Unfortunately, I can't show you that here right now because I didn't do it in this run, but it basically amounts to better, more efficient menus and much more difficult movement that helps shave off the extra time. One important improvement as far as the menuing efficiency goes, like I said, is you can carry you saw me do it here with the chap. You can carry that through the entire Hind fight and have it on callback for when you're on your way down, and that works for the normal grenades too if you're doing that strategy. Saves a little bit of time. Now we're on to another one of the big RNG wars that you have to deal with if you want a really, really good time, and that's Sniper Wolf Part 2. And I happen to get another nearly perfect RNG, great setup. She thinks about hiding a little bit here, but gets moving basically right away, and then the fight is on. And I just nail her over and over again. Very good fight. You can't do a whole lot better than this, and certainly you can't hope for much better RNG than this. This is very little time waste due to RNG, and even having her stopped at the beginning like I did, it really isn't a bad thing because it gives you a chance to prepare and start shooting her as soon as she's moving, rather than maybe rushing to get that first shot, missing, and then she ends up behind a tree, because that's actually something that I don't know has been discussed, but missing shots in this game, whether it be on Sniper Wolf or Vulcan Raven, has side effects. Mantis as well. I mentioned that with like the RNG dialogue stuff. Missing shots will trigger problems or affect their RNG. So again, be good to be good. It's kind of funny. Just be good to be good, and then you'll be good. I actually do a number of menus different and for different reasons than other people in this run. Like right there, other people would be spamming to try to gain a fraction of a second, like basically nothing. Instead, I keep my sniper on callback right here, and then right here I bring it back, and then just one menu to get to the M9, and that will set things up for Vulcan Raven. So when I get in there, I need no extra menus. I can just immediately tap to get to the PSG and get on with the fight. Overall, it's a bit faster. You do have to give up the couple little quick R mashes you can do as you're doing that crawl space, but there's really no time gain there. So overall, it's a net win to do this. And as the elevator fight went, this encounter also went nice and clean. Didn't get the damage list, but close enough. And then we have a nice long quiet elevator ride over here to think about all the things we've done wrong in this run, how fast we've gone to this point. Boy, what kind of a record could it be? It's one of those bad quiet moments that can let you think too much. So it's good to keep your mind busy with silliness, and I just like skate around here for fun. I think we all kind of come up with stuff to occupy ourselves there. It's just not good to have too much time to think about your run, especially if you're on a really fast pace. An interesting factoid about this codec call that I just got past, I actually devised a way to basically first frame the call pretty frequently, thinking, I'm going to save a little bit of time if I call that early, but it actually runs exactly the same amount of time, no matter what, so no need to rush that one. But here we are on Raven, and I want to take this time, as the fight goes on, to again remind people, shooting wildly and missing shots here can affect whether or not he runs from you. But the main trick, the very most important trick that guarantees he will never run, is you want to shoot him basically just before he lunges forward each time. Imagine that each time you shoot him, a bar starts ticking up and growing. And the bigger it gets, the farther he's going to run from you when he gets a chance to run. So he's going to run right after he lunges forward, I think the 4th time or whatever. So you want to shoot him right before he lunges, basically. And that won't allow that little imaginary bar to grow into a long enough run where he's going to ditch you. And you can kind of tell how close you were to frame perfect. If he doesn't take off and run at all, if he doesn't move at all, you were basically frame perfect, and he almost ran away because you were almost late with that shot. You've probably seen him not move at all, slightly twitch, take a half a step, or move quite a bit, maybe even like look like he's gonna run, and then like at the last second kind of just like, I'm gonna step back and just stay and shoot you. And that's like the range there. So it's not amazingly precise. You have a little bit of a range there. And the best, simplest way to explain it to you is to shoot just before he moves. You can kind of get a rhythm for that. Do that for each of his steps forward and you're good. Now, right here in Rex's lair, I changed some things. You're going to like this, especially you, Blue. When you get to the top here, you don't have to do the YOLO strat. Just walk up to him a little bit like this, and then finish the strat as normal. No chance of alerting him or messing it up. You can be too slow if you're really slow there, but that's much better to do than the full YOLO strat, because whereas you can get really automatic with it, when you're on world record pace, you definitely, like, your timing gets a little bit accelerated. Your heart rate's going fast, and it's hard to be 100% on things that are really tight timing, especially this late in the game. Added benefit of that right there is that no, it's not slower. Not when you're doing the shoot the rat strat. If you're doing the grenade strat, you're going to have to come up with something a little bit different. But the shoot the rat strat, which by the way, most people don't know this, they assume the grenade strat's faster. It's faster for a window, for a tiny execution of the overall strat, but the overall strat for the whole room, pretty much identical in a lot of different ways to attack this. And overall, I'm usually faster than people doing the shoot the rat strat, because one, you're much more likely to not have this happen, have the card fall into the moat. This was a really bad one. I lost it and it went over, but you can actually control where that box is going to go when you shoot it. You can't do that with a grenade. It explodes wildly, and you're just up to random chance. I tested kind of like mass statistics analysis on that, and it's like something like 30 to 40%. It stays on the ledge if you use a grenade strat. It's more like 60-70%. And also dependent on your execution. If you do the shoot the rat strat, it'll stay up. So it's a lot more times you're not going to lose those 2 or 3+ seconds going down in the moat to pick it up. Overall, more often you'll be faster with the shoot the rat strat. Now, as I said, that adjustment to the YOLO strategy at the beginning of this room does not lose you any time, and that's because in the shoot the rat strat, the guard cycles up top are set up so you shoot a guy right about where I'm standing right now, that guy. You shoot him when he comes to a stop right there. You can try to shoot him on the move, but it's kind of risky and prone to losing you more time. And usually you get there about when he's going to stop anyway. Well, with this new variation, you still get there in time for when he stops. So no time lost if that's your goal. I should maybe make a video that kind of shows a bunch of the variations that you can do to that first guard in the room, and most of them are all about pretty much the same speed, even like a really slow looking one where you kind of shoot everybody right here from this early spot before moving on. They really are all about the same speed if executed well. I mentioned the section where the grenade strat is faster for a short bit. That's the section where you drop from the rope drop, pull out your grenade and run and explode the rat. That little segment, exploding the rat, you do that a little bit quicker in the grenade strat. That's why it seems like it's faster overall, but that's just a window. There's a lot of other little factors, menuing, how wild the explosion's going to be, how far and how long the box is going to bounce, and that stuff all goes in the favor of the shoot the rat strat, which is only fractions of a second slower for that tiny interval anyway. The overall strat and the math statistics analysis states that you will be faster most of the time doing the shoot the rat strat, and you will never be more than a few frames faster using the grenade strat, and only can be faster with the grenade strat if you do the YOLO cutscene roll version of the grenade strat, which no one's really doing and is very hard and risky. And of course still has the possibility of the box exploding wildly off the ledge and your roll not being able to meet up with it anyway. Since we have a little bit of time before the Rex fight, I figured I'd give people an update in case they hadn't already heard or seen my post in the Discord. A lot of you know I was doing a lot of research. Like I tested 16 different Gamecubes over 3 sets of Twin Snakes copies, even a few Wii's, trying to suss out if there's like a model of the Gamecube that is faster than other models. And at first I thought maybe there was, and I thought I'd write up a report and help people find the best Gamecubes. It turns out there is no real pattern. It seems like a good disc could be a bad disc for one Gamecube. Like discs and Gamecubes play different with each other. So one man's great disc could be another man's poor disc. One man's great Gamecube could be another man's bad Gamecube, depending on the copy of the game that you own. And it doesn't seem to matter if your copy is a little bit roughed up or in perfect condition. And I found out my copy that I did the sub-hour run was, even though it was my original copy, in pristine condition, not a single scratch, kept in a good environment, low humidity, all these years, nice and cool, it was losing me time, and that annoyed me. But when I got some other discs to test, I started to find out that yeah, some discs can just be slow. I don't think they're too common. I think mine was just an anomaly, maybe some internal structural problem from how much I had used it in the past. Don't know, but what definitely was learned is that no matter what Gamecube and disc combination you have, you will have a natural variation in how much time your loads vary from run to run. It'll be about 10 to 12 seconds generally. Usually it'll be right in the middle, like a bell curve. Rarely at its fastest, rarely at its slowest, usually pretty close to the middle. This fight right here didn't go too great. This first part of Metal Gear, I did miss a few shots and had to initiated the laser sequence, which I normally don't do. I usually just do the stay in place strategy most of the time. But I initiated that, so I had to finish it that way, and I missed a couple shots because I shot too early during iframes. Didn't lose much time, but it's an annoyance nonetheless. Thankfully, the second half of Metal Gear goes perfect, so I was happy enough with that. A new trick I found out that I wanted to mention here is on Metal Gear, when he shoots his bullets at you, let's say you come in here and you don't have any rations left, you're low on life because you fell on some of the drops cooling the card. You could run into some health issues, but you can dodge his bullet attacks, especially in phase 1, by going into first person and getting on your toes. He cannot hit you when you're on your toes in first person, so that's a nice way to recoup life. In the second phase, we all know how sensitive any movement from the original spot is, and you do have a subpixel movement when you go into first person. So you can't really get away with it much in the second phase. You can still dodge the bullets an unlimited amount of times, but you only want to do that for the last cycle if you need to, because otherwise it'll initiate him hitting you with the rockets and all kinds of trouble, and you don't want that. That's obviously a recipe for disaster. But yeah, you can use it in the last cycle if you need to to miss one set of bullets before you get in the last shot, something like that, it's okay in the second phase. Now here, I get a double lottery roll, which I've unveiled a long time ago when we were working on this, but no one ever really thought it would be in a run. I'm doing it in a run here. It's third try, which isn't perfect, but I thought it was still pretty cool. It's double lottery roll. I have another 5634 run, identical IGT, and I landed double lottery roll first try, and I get that a very surprisingly frequent amount of times, like I feel like 33% or something. Third of the times I do this fight, I land double lottery roll first try. This time it was third try. That's fine. It's still a very fast time, and pretty cool to show here. I didn't show the other 5634 because overall I feel like the double lottery roll, the perfect one, saved what was, it was an inferior run. Other things I didn't like about it. I like this run better overall, so I put up this 5634. Now this is a new strategy here. You run forward, lay down on the other side of the barrels, kind of line your feet up with that vertical girder, and then just lay here. The guards are going to stay in the corner where they would be if you were up against the wall in the old strategies, and they're going to be out of your way, but you're already close to the Jeep. You get up about 39, expect to take a hit or two, and then as soon as you're allowed to get in the Jeep, you're in the Jeep. You can shoot this barrel before they interrupt you, and if all goes perfectly, you can get out of that room with 9 minutes and 29 seconds left on the clock, which is about 2 seconds faster than the standard strat. It's fast. It's as fast as that other strategy where people go in the hallway on normal or whatever and fight all the guards. A silly strategy that no one should do because it's dumb. But yeah, this is a new strategy. It's very consistent, and it will save you 2 seconds. And then I also do a lot of like labbing on this escape. I don't know if a lot of people do, but if it looks like chaos, it's not. I actually plan to do things. I plan to get hit in certain places because I feel like it sets up the way Liquid's iframes behave near the end. And I think what you see here is my current compilation of what I think the best strategy can be. There may still be improvements to find, but this is the best by design that I've seen so far. Not my fastest time. It's a few seconds slower than my fastest time because I did get hit one extra time I didn't intend to. But overall, the composition of the strategy is correct here, and I do what I want to do, and I get a very fast time, a very uncommon 7:34 remaining on the clock, which just makes this run overall even more impressive. I mean, so much has gone right in this run, from the crazy execution of all the hard stuff to especially the RNG. You just don't expect to get like so much RNG, so much in your favor, everything working together, all in the run where you're actually playing really well as well. Very minor mistakes in the run. So it all came together pretty nice. As you see, when he moves in close here, I don't have any issues with extended iframe crap. It can get really bad really. He can mess with you for 15 plus seconds of extra shenanigans where he keeps getting extra iframes. But the way I've labbed out the strat here, you generally get a good result, better than 730 remaining, which is quite ideal for extreme. And you see the RTA there, a 5823. I guess that's the first uploaded for public consumption sub 59 RTA, and it's way sub, as long as, or as well as the first 56 IGT, which of course is what we're going for, IGT. I'm gonna have to do something with this upcoming music because of rogue DJs who steal things. I want to sincerely thank those of you who have made it this far, who have sat here and watched the whole thing, especially if you're like a casual viewer or one of my legacy subscribers from the FPS days. Yeah, I'm really happy that you sat here watching it. I kind of catered this commentary more to the people who are speedrunning this game right now because I wanted to give them a little detail on the new stuff, and I covered a lot of like casual descriptions and explanations for how I'm doing a lot of the stuff in the previous commentary for the video a couple years ago. And that's an easier one for like a casual viewer to watch and digest. So if you're into that thing, go back and take a look at it. But I did want to cater this one a little bit more towards the people who are running the game, so I can give them insights that wouldn't have been possible if I spent time talking about other things like before. So this commentary stands on its own a little bit. It's a different style a little bit than the other one, and I think that was the best way to go about it. I hope you didn't get bored. Again, if you made it this far, say the secret code word in your comment or something so I'll know. We'll go with Patriot again. Speaking genuinely about the other runners who have frequented this game and comprised the community that I'm part of, it's been a real blast these last few years working with you to improve this run. A lot of your discoveries have surprised me. I really didn't know, how drastic this run would be changing these last couple years as people like Furry, and JMC, and Blue, and Airlian, and Plywood. You've all contributed. I'm sure there's others that I'm missing, but you've all contributed so much to this run. You've played admirably, submitted nice runs. Tyler just got over that that hump of beating my legacy run, and I'm happy that all of you have finally done that. And I wanted to come back and kind of, I guess, reset the expectation for what a top tier run can be. I've kind of been itching to do a run, especially with all the new strats. Everything's changed. I wanted to see what a good time would be if I put a little bit of effort into it, and I'm pretty happy with the results. This run is incredibly clean. Of course, as a semi-perfectionist, I can always pick out a lot of things that I could have done better, little tiny mistakes, little bit of time loss here and there, time loss due to bad RNG or only average or only really good but not perfect RNG. There's a lot of time loss in any run that's like this, an hour long or so. So there will never be a perfect run. That's task territory. Something like this is getting quite close to what a human can do. I do think sub 55 or 55 something, 55x is doable, but it's going to have everything come together. Maybe it'll be me. I do think I could come back and do a little bit more, as I said earlier. I don't know when or even for sure if I will come back. I may wait until more discoveries are made. I don't know, but this is a pretty clean run. Funny story, I've been talking about my research on different Gamecubes and disc combinations. My other 5634 was done on a faster Gamecube, so it benefited about 11 seconds from just being a better hardware disc combination. So it's not even an equal time run. It's 11 seconds slower because it's got better hardware as far as execution goes. If I would have done this run on the faster hardware disc combination, it would have been a 5623 instead of a 5634. And that kind of made me want to come back and do another run too. That's really what stopped me from uploading this initially, is the very next day I realized during my testing that this is the record on slower hardware and disc combination. And that doesn't make you feel good, knowing that you lost 11 seconds for nothing. All I have to do is replicate this run on the other GameCube and disc combination, and suddenly I've got a better run automatically. So that, along with little mistakes here and there, better Mantis especially, and I definitely see 56 teens, 5615-ish as being a very reasonable target for me if I come back. And then of course if you hit the lottery, not the lottery roll, because I hit those almost every run anyway, and often 2 times as you saw, but you know, the lottery, so to speak, of having a very perfect run with very perfect RNG and everything come together and keep that pace all the way through to 55. Maybe. Something I like to do, and I did in my other commentary as well, is kind of give people an idea, because they always wonder, well, how fast do you think this run could go technically? Well, obviously the human element of it all, I said I'm getting pretty close to what's reasonable for a human to expect given all the factors involved. But if you go with my actual sum of best, IGT, which is 5440, yeah, 5440 is my current sum of best IGT, which means sum of best RTA is actually about a 5627. So that seems like some kind of huge jump, and it kind of is, because it's impossible. It's task level stuff. It's literal perfect execution and literal perfect RNG, the likes of which you will never see. And I've already talked about how rare and amazing the RNG I got in this run is, but yet you see there's still quite a bit of a gap to cover if you really want to be perfect. One thing I will say though, and I usually tell people that, you know, are stressing and resetting way earlier than they should be in their speedrunning career on particular games. RNG doesn't matter for almost all of you. You can get a 57 IGT in this game having all the worst RNG if your execution is solid. So like, resetting is kind of pointless for most people. Getting to the point where I am now, I'm starting to find that it does matter quite a bit. I'm going to either get a 55 or perhaps a higher 56 depending on RNG. It's still not the determining factor. Execution is still key, it's still king, and it'll still get you most of the way there. But then we have that gap to my sum of best, and you only get there with the kindest RNG and the best execution. So those are impossible numbers, but if I did keep live split for all my attempts, that's what you would see, which is pretty wild, and it just doesn't make any sense how good it is. But here we are. You see 5634, perfect stats, all zeros except for the mandatory story alerts, and I've been bestowed the honor of the title of Big Boss, as is required. Thanks again for watching. Check out our community at MetalGearSpeedrunners.com. Check out our Discord. You can find the link there at that website. Check out the normal world record of this run held by Airlian currently. He's another amazing runner who is also ran Extreme a good amount, held the record in that for a while. Check out Blue Metal's runs. Check out the community. If you're interested in speedrunning, we're very welcoming and we're ready to help you out, and we'd love to have you. Until the next secret speedrun drops, this has been Wallguy. See ya!